Let's try this from the top. Last one was horrible. I deleted it. Okay, so as you can see, intake manifold is on, valve covers are on, headers are on. This stuff was on the other day when I showed. So what have I run into problem-wise? Mounting a distributor. So for those that don't know, these distributors do not directly engage the oil pump. There is a shaft in between the the distributor drive, the bottom of the distributor drive, and the input on the oil pump. And so that's not too bad. But the distributor base is a slot, so it's flat. Um, the intermediate shaft, well, I guess I shouldn't call it the intermediate shaft, but the oil pump drive shaft is a hex. So you got 6 faces on that. So I go to put the distributor in, get everything lined up. Let's check. It's all top dead center. I verified that I could see the spark plug, or the spark plug. Shoot. I verified that I could see the piston through the spark plug hole. I marked out based on the cap. I don't know, you can see, but the cap is marked number 1. So I went and put a nice yellow paint mark on my distributor body, took the cap off, made sure the rotor was pointing, mounted all the intake and whatnot on here. And when I went to drop the distributor in, the square, one of these is square, the other one's rounded. The square end was pointed, I don't know if you can see, right there where those scratch marks are. And the distributor ended up being so close to the intake manifold that you couldn't actually get the cap onto it. There was enough clearance, maybe a few thousandths. You could have gotten a feeler gauge, piece of paper, something like that, but you weren't getting the plastic cap on. So distributor comes out and fished in there with a long needle nose set of pliers, pulled the gear up out of the cam drive because that shaft between the distributor and the oil pump has the cam gear, has the drive gear on it. So I had to bring all that up, turned it one face, reset it. That got me clearance on the distributor. I don't foresee that being any kind of a problem with the engine. I did all that before I had the valve covers and everything on. So the only thing that was actually on at that point was the intake manifold. If the intake manifold hadn't been on, I'd have just been able to reach down there and pull that shaft up. But I don't really foresee anything being wrong. I've got the crank and timing all set to top dead center. Number 1 is up, top dead center. In theory, I should be able to put this guy in kind of however I want it, as long as everybody's pointed off number 1 when it goes together. That means it's probably going to have to come out, and on these trucks, you might as well take the engine out if you got to pull a distributor. It's terrible. It's just horrible under that cowl. Headers went on for being, cheap eBay headers. Everybody says just run them. They fit. They do fit reasonably well. They have 3/8 flanges, so I wasn't really worried about splitting the flanges. They'll bolt up to the factory Y pipe. I had to cut. So the studs, when I made the studs, they're roughly 2 inches long overall length. The inner stud on number 8, and the inner stud, or I guess the only stud on number 6, I had to cut down because they're too long. Focus. I'm gonna try a pointer. At 2 inches long, there was no room here to even do anything. Couldn't get a nut started. You couldn't get anything. So those two got cut down. I had done this side first, so I was already expecting issues when I came over to the driver's side and went to do those. And what I found over here, I think mostly it's, well, they both do this. I don't know. But right here, where that one is, that nut back there is hidden. And while that is a pretty good gap, you might be able to get in there. I had trouble getting an Allen key in there that would fit a cap screw. So studs wouldn't work at all on these three. On this one at number 1, this one at number 5, and that one at number 7. Studs were out of the question. They wouldn't work at all. Rummaged through, and I had these 3 5/16 stainless steel bolts, uh, industrial standard sized head, thread length, all that kind of stuff. Originally, I tried to use cap screws, but I was having trouble getting an Allen key in to tighten the cap screws. So then I tried button head cap screws, which are this style. They're the domed cap screw. So I had some stainless steel button head cap screws, and again, it was getting the getting the Allen key in there. So I did these just as regular bolts. That one, with as much of a pain in the butt as it is getting it tightened up just here, that one's probably going to be the one that has problems the most. But these two right here, this one on number 7, this one on number 5, they're going to be horrible. They're not very nice. And the only thing that I think would have helped significantly as far as these 3 bolts were concerned, well, and probably any of them, is if I had known this was going to be a problem the way it is, I would have pre-ordered flanged head stainless steel bolts, well, locking flange head stainless steel bolts. So they would have the serrations on the bottom of the flange head so that when you tighten it, they kind of hold themselves in place. But on a flange head bolt, not only is the washer integrated into it, but then the hex portion is a reduced size. So on industrial standard, a 5/16 bolt, whether it's coarse thread or fine thread, a fine 16th is going to have a 1/2 inch hex head on it. So the flanges will be a 1/2 inch. Take a 1/2 inch socket, 1/2 inch ratchet, whatever. Whereas your flanged head bolts generally have a reduced size, so they would take probably a 7/16, be the most logical. Usually it's about one size down. Most of the metric stuff I have memorized because I use it a lot more than standard, but that probably would have been the way to go for all of these, is to have just purchased, instead of purchasing studs and flanged nuts. Now, and see, these flanged nuts here are 5/16, but they are not reduced head. So they're still a 1/2 inch between the flats, and then have the integrated locking washer. But yeah, I really do think that a reduced head locking stainless steel flange bolt, yeah, that's a lot. Would probably be the most ideal for these. Now these guys are, I keep wanting to say they're Monza, and Monza's wrong. I know I didn't do that. They are. Can we focus? Probably not. Manzo, Manzo. Like I say, I think they're $130 eBay specials. But everything that I could find on headers for these engines were just like, unless you're doing something big competition-wise, you just want a little better flow, get these. Honestly, they're not too bad. I run a lot of Dynamax back in the day, and I can tell you right now that these things are well above better quality than late 80s, mid 80s through late 90s, early 2000s Dynamax headers, or, which I know everybody's going to pick on me for using Dynamax headers, but they were the entry level ones. They were if you go to Summit or Jegs and buy house brands, you're basically getting those basic Dynamax headers. Or you go to brain fart. I can't think of anything, but you get the point. They were just the basic go-to standard, got the job done and worked. They weren't super fancy. And if you needed critical bends and clearances and tight tolerances, you stepped up to a Headman or a Hooker or Monza's, just anybody that was better quality than Dynamax. So that's the only thing I can compare the Chinesium stuff to. The cheap eBay things is you go to the lowest quality that used to be the normal. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm double check everything's nice and tight. I'm gonna put spark plug wires on, and then I'm gonna go over that box there. Just showed up today, and that's the new power steering pump. I have to clean the power steering pump pulley because evidently at some point in its history the belt decided to become one with the pulley, and I guess I've just been rolling on it with new belts ever since, and didn't even know, had no clue. But yeah, it's hoping. Really wanted to get the engine in this weekend, but today's the only good day. I'm not going to have this completely finished up for the way I like to work by the end of my day today. And so tomorrow's supposed to be rainy, snowy, sleety. Monday's supposed to be rainy, snowy, sleety. So it's probably going to be Tuesday. That means absolutely nothing to the YouTube peoples because you guys watch this whenever you feel like it, and you're probably watching it on the 7th Tuesday of the 18th month of the year or something like that. So, but it's going to be a couple days before I get anything done. Oh, and I did not reinstall the sleeves, the metal spark plug protector sleeves. I really hate those things. When I was working in Fleet, they just got in the way. But I did buy a set of DEI Protect-A-Boots. Run these on other cars before. What are these? These are the 6-inch long ones. I've always had good luck with them, as long as you don't lay it right on top of the heat source. So hopefully these will do what I needed or what those other things were supposedly doing, and I'll be able to go from there. And if not, I guess I'll melt all my spark plug wires and have to make new ones. All right, everybody have fun.